Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Podcast Interviews. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood Zach Stat Pearson. And today, I'm joined by he who has tamed all of the ghosts without being from Supernatural or a Winchester, a one Doc Mac.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
All right, Doc Mac, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm the owner of Galloping Ghost in all of its various forms. Galloping Ghost Productions was our first company that opened up way back in 1994. Most notably, the Galloping Ghost Arcade, which opened up in 2010, and we're currently the largest arcade in the world. Then we've got Galloping Ghost Pinball, Galloping Ghost Reproductions, Galloping Ghost Garage, Galloping Ghost Kaiju Kobo, and Galloping Ghost Holdings. So it's all kind of all these companies come together to do the things that we need to do.
It took the Square Enix approach. Fun fact, a lot of people who had never learned this, but Square Enix is not technically a gaming company. They are a holdings company that has a gaming division. Okay. Well, obviously, you know, we could be here all day talking about the various places Galloping Ghost has gotten its possessions into. But before we do that, I'm just going to ask a quick few questions, if you don't mind. Starting off with, what would you like people to know about the Galloping Ghost brand?
Just with everything that we do, myself, I've been I've been playing games since I was 5 years old, and it's something that to us means a lot. It's a great way to, like, sharing games with people is just an incredible thing, and we want to do that at the highest caliber level with anything that has the Galloping Ghost name on it. So it's one of those things where we just try to keep making it bigger and better. And if anybody's traveling in or coming out to the arcade or pinball, or we just want them to have the best time possible.
Fantastic. All right. Now, can you tell me about the numerous Guinness records that you hold?
So me personally, I used to spend a lot of time playing games for high score, and I used to have many world records. Not many of them not like with high scores and world records. Guinness only recognizes a select few, and while we recognize Guinness, Guinness sometimes doesn't recognize us. Like with probably the record that I'm most proud of is probably that the Galloping Ghost Arcade is the largest arcade in the world. We've got currently 927 games on the arcade floor. It's just a few. We took the record away from Fun Spot, which had 611 machines several years ago, and we haven't run it through Guinness yet, but it's without any question, we're the largest arcade out there.
Just on a side note, whenever that day comes, or if you want to have Guinness take a look, let me know, and I would love to film and record that stuff. Steven ain't the only one with a camera.
That'd be awesome.
Cool. All right, now I guess the next thing would be, what made you want to create your own fighting game? Because don't get me wrong, I've known about you indirectly for many years, but that I did not know.
So everything started with Galloping Ghost Productions, and I grew up in arcades. I was in arcades every single week, and when Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat became such a huge deal to everybody, they had such a big impact on me, and I had known I wanted to work in the gaming industry long before, but started really coming up with character designs and ideas for games around that time. And in 94, that's when it all started. So it was the starting point of everything. And so many people found out about the arcade, and that was really at the forefront of it. But it's always been the goal and the dream to make video games. So it's our Game Dark presence has been definitely a labor of love, and we're getting so close to having it out, and we're very excited to get it out in front of everybody.
Well, it's always nice to see a fellow independent. I mean, I haven't had as much time in the oven necessarily as you, but don't get me wrong. You're the type of person I like to tell young people who are trying to get into the indie scene, or they fell out of love and became disillusioned with mainstream corporate gaming, so to speak, which can you blame them? And I let them know, you shouldn't be expecting to get things done, in a blink of an eye. Yeah, technology's gotten easier, but the real goal should be being ambitious and wanting to make a quality product, not trying to necessarily get everything done as quickly as possible.
I would agree with that in so much. I've told the story a million times about how wanting to work in the industry, I had a chance opportunity to meet Ed Boon, and he said, he was like, oh, it's really hard to get into this scene. And rather than take that as a deterrent, it was just kind of, okay, I have to go a different route. And it was such a fortuitous thing that I didn't get to go work at Midway. And I at the time, I would have loved to, but it had created so many opportunities, and I had learned so much on my own. And there's so many great indie companies out there now, and people really have so many tools at their fingertips that they can make games with and start that process. So it's never, you hear people that, oh, it's too hard, it's too this. There's always excuses. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I know, don't get me wrong, I'm obviously from the younger generation. I wasn't doing nothing in '94 except watching Power Rangers. But believe me when I tell you, I am glad, and I'm always more interested in seeing some of these older folks and older gentlemen and women do it than I am some of the new people, because I won't say they're stereotypically arrogant pieces of, well, whatever you prefer, but it's more along the lines of they almost don't want to acknowledge that your end goal doesn't have to be ending up being attached to a corporation who may or may not even respect you or your property. Everybody's heard a horror story in the industry. We all know that. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. But a lot of them were self-inflicted. That's what people don't understand, All right. Now,
definitely.
Moving on. Now, this is one of the questions I'm the most curious about. If you weren't an arcade owner-operator, what other job or profession do you think you would have right now?
Fortunately, again, with what I get to do here, my main goal that I always want to do is make video games, and I get to do that. I get to run the arcade and the pinball place, and if I wasn't, I've never for a minute thought that I wouldn't be in gaming somewhere. I wasn't sure if I was going to just be doing artwork or audio work or music. Fortunately, everything that I get to do on literally a daily basis is all stuff that I just genuinely love doing. So it's not even work. It's just I get to come in every day and have fun and work with great, amazing, creative people and do stuff that's fun, and it's living the life for sure. It's a lot of I'm here 100+ hours a week, but it's just an incredible. It's very fortuitous. I love what I get to do, so I couldn't picture myself doing anything else.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you think you're doing your calling in life and your work doesn't feel like work to you, honestly, that's a rarity these days. People are either working to live or they're living to work, and it's always nice when someone can find that other system. All right, so now this one, no one ever gives the same answer. There are some usual suspects, but what is your favorite game of all time, or currently, if you can't pick?
That is always such a difficult question to answer. I guess I've been saying Narc, which was a game from Williams back in 1988. And I remember playing that in the arcade nonstop. And it was the first arcade game I ever bought for my house. I had petitioned to get the game released on the 8-bit Nintendo. I rode my bike around and was just collecting signatures to send it in to Williams, asking them to please do a home console version of this game. So that was definitely a huge game for me. And we ran an event at the arcade where we got everybody that had worked on the game, all the programmers and designers and artists and guys like Eugene Jarvis and George Petro and Mark Lafredo and just the powerhouses of the industry. And the day before the event, George Petro, who runs Play Mechanics, which is one of the best arcade companies out there still making games, and he asked me if I had a spare Narc PCB lying around. And I did, and we were getting ready for the show, so we were so excited to get this done and didn't even really think about it. We brought him the board and went back to work to get prepped for the show. And the next day he comes in and George hands me the board back and he starts telling me a story about how 2 weeks before Narc hit the arcade floor, they were putting it out on test and there was a bonus level that they wanted in the game where you're flying a helicopter and you've just got unlimited artillery. You're just dropping missiles everywhere, and the level caused a problem and it was buggy, and they ended up pulling the level out because the release date was so close. So they scrapped the level and shipped it, and the game was a tremendous hit. But he's like, I finished coding that level for you last night, and now here's your board back, and it's got the only it's the only one of its kind with a full complete bonus level that nobody had ever seen aside from that 1 or 2 days out on testing. So that just put that game, again, coming out. I'd been playing it since 1988, and to have an additional level and something that was so exclusive and from the creators specifically for the Galloping Ghost Arcade, that meant so much. So I always have to say Narc is my favorite game.
Understandable. All right. I'm gonna have to look into that because few games have people playing them 30 plus years. When did you first realize you wanted to run your own arcade? I feel like maybe when you get out the womb, to be fair. The arcade, the concept for the arcade happened a few years before it actually opened. And we were working on Dark Presence, and a website opened up called Orcade, Aurcade. And they were a location tracker. So they basically were going all around and finding venues that had arcade games and listing what games they had. And as from the production company side, we thought, oh, what a great resource. We'll know who has what and how many games they have. And that'll really assist us from when we go to start selling our game Dark Presence. And to help populate the site, we, myself and a bunch of the other members of Galloping Ghost, started going around to any place that had arcade games. We were going to like pool halls and movie theaters and, of course, arcades and laundromats and any place that might have an arcade game. We were checking it out and looking and adding it to the site. And it was such a realization that while we're trying to make games for the arcade scene, every place that we were going, the machines weren't working right. So we kind of came up with a business model then of we need to make an arcade. We got to have an arcade where game maintenance is of top priority and have more games and more obscure games. And it was always kind of
like we're going to do this later after the game launches. But in 2010, everything just lined up. And in all honesty, the arcade was just kind of a whim type business. It's like, yeah, we'll open up this arcade right now and get back to working on Dark Presence. And the arcade did so well, and the demand for it was so high, and it just kept growing and growing and took up so much time and so many resources that it put Dark Presence on a hiatus for a little bit. So it was something that I had always wanted to do, and then later found this need for it, and then eventually it just kind of happened. So it was not so many people think that the arcade was first, and like I said, it was just kind of something that came along the way.
Huh, I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
All right. Now, as far as your current game, how long have you been working on it? Let's tell us a little bit about it.
So we had the concepts and the initial thought for the game Dark Presence started back in 1994.
Damn.
And yeah, it's been a long time. 28 years, which is, I'm sure it's the longest time for any game in development. But
I mean, there is Duke Nukem.
I think we're past Duke Nukem. I think Duke Nukem only took like 15 years to do. And to me, I always joke that they rushed it. It's why it wasn't as well received. They pushed it out too quick. They should have held it back a little bit longer and fine-tuned it a bit more. But we started, and from 94 to 95, we shot the game. We worked on the footage. We didn't shoot enough. So towards the end of 95 or 96, we went back to the studio and we really reshot everything. And for the next 10 years, that's all we were doing, was working nonstop on trying to get the game out. And in 2004, the game was pretty much done, but it looked so dated. So we had a meeting with the team, and we're like, hey, look, we can either put this out as it is and move on to the next project, or we go back in and we reshoot everything and we'll start everything over, and it'll probably go really quick. So that's what we did. We rebooted in 2005. We ended up back in our filming studio. We shot not only Dark Presence, but a follow-up game called Conquering Light. And we've been working on it ever since. In 2010 to about 2017, we were working with a very, very small team, because all the production guys were working at the arcade. So after that, we switched engines several times, and now we're finally landed in Unity, and we're so close now. It's finally wrapping up, and we're taking it out to shows, and it's been funny that it's been so long in production that a documentary company called Year of the Phoenix approached us, and they had heard about the game, and we're like, why is this taking so long? And we started to tell them the story, and they thought it would be a great point of material for a documentary. So they've been chronicling the entire history to the game, and they've got all of our old footage, and they've done 50 interviews, and they're really trying to they're doing an amazing job of trying to tell the story of why the game has taken this long.
Well, obviously I'm going to want links so people can go and view it.
Cool.
All right. That was very interesting. I was very curious about that one. But, Unity's not a bad choice. If you're not using the number one, you might as well use the number two out there. Plus, that massive third-party affiliate resource and plug-in market, can't beat it.
For sure.
All right. Now, do you see yourself making other games too? If so, what would they be about? Like future projects down the line, or is that still being hashed out?
No. The team and myself, we're very anxious to move on to the next project. Not only do we have Conquering Light, but we've got probably the next dozen games lined up that we want to make. Along the way, we were able to team up with Brian Colin, who is he basically is an artist, game designer. He worked on games like Rampage and Sarge and General Chaos, and his art style is so instantly recognizable, and some of the games that he designed are such favorites of so many people. And he'd been out to the arcade many times, and there was one morning I was having breakfast with him and Jeff Lee, who is the creator of he was the artist and creator of Qbert. And I was talking to him about projects that they never completed. And Brian started to tell me about a game called Spectre Files: The Deathstalker, which was a game started back in 1984. It was like a live action B horror movie style game.
I was close.
And yeah, it was supposed to be like almost like a choose your own adventure game. And you'd watch a video clip and then be given 3 choices, and you'd select what you're going to do, and then if you chose the right one, the story would proceed. If you chose the wrong one, you'd get killed off.
Telltale before Telltale.
Yes. So it was something that is supposed to come out in the arcade on a Laserdisc, similar to like Dragon Slayer and Mad Dog McCree and games Time Traveler, along that lines. And the game got canceled. And we ended up talking, and I was infatuated with this game. This sounded so amazing. And I asked him, like, do you still have all that footage? And he was unsure of it. He's like, if I do, I haven't seen it in 30 years, so let me go look and see what I can find. And lo and behold, he had it. So we teamed up. His company, Game Refuge, and Galloping Ghost Productions teamed up and actually completed the game. And we did an actual release for it, and we did a small run of cabinets, and they're in various arcades across the U.S., which is amazing to see this game that almost disappeared and was lost, kind of brought back and finished and put out, and was so happy to see how well received it was. And we eventually would port it. We put it on Steam for everybody to enjoy at home too. But amazing time getting to work with Brian. And that was our first game that actually launched from Galloping Ghost Productions. So it was a important thing for us to learn the production process of making arcade cabinets and sourcing parts and shipping. And it was a great first step. And now we're very much set up for Dark Presence to come out, and excited to work on. We're narrowing down which our next project is going to be, but we've got a lot of great games to choose from. So
definitely gonna need to get some links for you, because I honestly just thought y'all was an arcade and y'all hadn't sued the mechanic company that was called Galloping Ghost Garage. Nope, you're the same person. So yeah, this is all new for me. How long do you think you have left before you can release your current titles, or your current slated title?
So Dark Presence, we're hoping will come out before the end of the year. With so many things going on, we've kind of stopped giving release dates.
Smart. I learned that lesson the hard way too. I can't even.
You never want to disappoint people. It's done when it's done, and we're anxious to get it out there, and it's looking before the end of the year.
This is what I started telling people when they was asking me about that essentially Mercenaries mode only non-zombie Resident Evil 6 style gun game I got. Hey, look, the demo will get done on Hawaiian time. It's like, what's Hawaiian time? That means you're going to get there when you get there. And that's an actual saying. And they weren't annoyed by it. They kind of thought it was funny. I was like, hey, look, I got things you can look at, but as far as prototypes go, I don't even want people touching alpha builds until I know they won't crash.
That's smart. Very smart.
Yep. Now, one of the ones if the answer is yes, I would love to help out with, because, well, you don't know me and I don't know you, but let's just say we both have very, very vast networks, and I would love to merge them together somehow. The esports scene has been looked at as a form of revitalization by certain sections of the arcade and fighting game hobbyists. Do you see Galloping Ghost getting involved in esports or in some way at some point, maybe in a state-only league or possibly sponsoring a team, etc.?
So we actually have Team GGA, which was our fighting team, which started out I think it officially started in 2011 or 2012, around Mortal Kombat 9. And this
the
was
renaissance of Mortal Kombat. That was a good year for them.
It was a great year. Amazing game. This was before esports was even really talked about. We had sponsored it was 8 players when we started, all playing Mortal Kombat 9, and the team formed from everybody playing at the arcade. And it was GGA Pete Hahn, GGA Jeremiah, Phil Pops, Dizzy, 16-bit, Mo, 30W. We had just some of the top, Tommy Waffles. We just had some of the top players come up in our scene. And long before anybody else was doing it, we were like, we're Team GGA. We're sending these guys out to Evo. And we had them all Team GGA's jerseys and everything. We paid for their airfare, their hotel.
Bro, that's nice.
All
I
their
had
tournament
no
fees.
idea that's what Team GGA was. Galloping Ghost Arcade. I get it now.
It was before anybody was doing it. There were teams on the coasts, but
there's like nobody over here.
Midwest.
Like the closer you get to California, the more you start seeing esports stuff. But the minute you leave, the only people recognize out here is Sonic Fox, and that's just because we know he's not from California. Most people don't know where he's from. They just know he's not from California.
Right. Well, and we've had Sonic Fox out. We've had so many players after Evo. Like, everybody saw how polished this team was, and they came out of nowhere. And it was because they treated it like a job. Like, they were training 4 or 5 days a week. They were training for 6 to 8 hours a day. And we had all their setups. We gave them a private area to go play. And they trained as a team, which was what made them so good, because everybody was focused on different characters. Everybody learned most of the characters, but everybody had their main focus. Like Dizzy and his Johnny Cage, and 16-bit is Katana. Waffles is Smoke. GGA Jeremiah is Shiva. Phil Pops was Noob Sabat. Sunk was Cabal. So we just had this amazing team. And so many of the top players after Evo, Perfect Legend won that year we went out there, and he traveled back to come hang out and train with our guys, because he's like, I got to see what's going on here, because you guys are all really good. And as a collective, it was an amazing thing.
I don't know what it is about Chicago, but we put a little sprinkle of professionalism in anything we love, and all of a sudden it just blows up. The Bulls weren't really the Bulls until they got Michael, and it really blew up. Pizza wasn't really pizza until we started winning international awards. Now, anybody who thinks New York has the best pizza, they just heard a stereotype. They don't actually look into it. It just takes a little bit of ambition, and I don't know what it is, but you sprinkle some Chicago on it, it's ridiculous. A friend of mine even got bored once, and he looked up every single show made in North America that claims it was made in Chicago or it's set in Chicago. Most of them, to this day, and I mean as far back as last year, are Emmy, Oscar award winning. It's crazy. It makes no sense, because theoretically they could have said Louisiana, they could have said New York, but these fake places, that fake Chicago, where they might film 5 minutes in Chicago and then go back to Cali, award after award after award. It's ridiculous. I don't know what it is.
it's that magic thing, that magic element to it.
Yeah, you can't quantify it. All right, well, I'm happy to hear that, and I'm gonna start looking into your team more. Now this one, I
We
in
we
particular.
had a
Go
we
ahead.
had a Smash Brothers team that went for a while too, and literally with any NRS release, the team was evolving and growing, and it ran for years, and um, the best. It was kind of one of those bittersweet times for Team GGA. We actually currently have just 2 players that still go and compete, sometimes 3. But most of the team members are working at NRS now. So like,
Damn, they stole your crew.
Yeah, that was the big problem with it, is like we had all these great players, and then they were like, oh, you guys should be coming and working and playing the game.
I hate to say it, but unfortunately, it's not common knowledge until more recent years, but you got to treat these players like ball players, like athletes. So if you don't lock them into a contract, somebody shows up with a slightly better deal, and it's up in smoke. But to be fair, this Chicago, believe me when I tell you, you can find some talented game players and you can build them up just like last time, but make sure they sign that no moonlighting.
It's one of those things where I could never fault anybody for wanting to go work at NRS. Like, what a cool company that has made so many amazing games that, like, they're making Mortal Kombat. Like, if you're a Mortal Kombat player, to have any input on that game or to test it, you can't fault them. You can't fault them for wanting to go. Even if we had contracts with them, I wouldn't want to limit them to just playing the current tournament game. You'd have to let them go. So,
okay, well, don't get me wrong. You did it once, and as time has shown, you can excel and do it again. But I would also maybe branch into also getting people in on Smash. But that's just because I am as passionate as Smash as you are about Mortal Kombat. But I acknowledge the greats. I acknowledge the legends. So, hey, if you build up another team, you get them on contracts, or you start nabbing some good people, I am all for trying to root for them. Just let me know where they're going to be.
We'll keep you posted.
Thank you. And now this one in particular, I'm curious about, because outside of Game Palazzo, which they claim they have the most space, but that doesn't really mean anything if there's not a lot of shit in the space. Not throwing shade on them, but saying you have the most space doesn't mean nothing when it's an arcade. I am curious, what do you think about VR arcade games? Do you think that's something you may get into, or do you think VR as arcade game setting is just a fad that's going to fizz out at some point?
I think it has its place. I think there's some great tech out there, and more on the way. And it's hardware wise, it's such a cool thing, and the arcade is such a great place to do it at. The downside, the problem area for me is keeping it all functional.
Yeah, maintenance is a bitch.
We had Metal Gear Arcade, which we brought in from Japan, and the machine I think it had close to 30 or 40,000 plays on it, and it was immaculate. It was a absolutely beautiful machine. Everything on it worked perfect. And we had it on the arcade floor for maybe 8 months. And the 3D glasses that had head tracking sensors, so like all the movement, it controlled where you're looking and everything. Somebody damaged the headset, and I've not, to this day, it's been years, I've not been able to repair it or find any information on how to repair it. So I think it's a very interesting technology.
I think you might be able to help with that, but we'll talk about that when this is over.
Oh, cool. But yeah, it's one of those things where the unique hardware makes it concerning. Some of that stuff is so fragile. It's fascinating to see what the technology is bringing out there, and if there's cool games. Like, that's our thing. We have people wondering what we won't get at the arcade. And we had people thinking we wouldn't get a game like Chiller or Death Race because of the violence in them, and obviously those are
Man, look, y'all
very
not Chuck E.
classic
Cheese.
games.
Y'all gonna get some shit.
If it's a fun game, we want to have it here.
Exactly. It shouldn't even be a question.
That's how it is. For us though, we do have to make sure that it's going to be able to be sustainable on the arcade floor. And we have people asking, "Oh, why don't you have a Dance Dance Revolution and stuff?" And it's like, well, those machines get in a typical arcade. Everybody complains about the maintenance, and at like Galloping Ghost, we see 80,000 people through the door a year, and everything gets played a ton. So like, if you imagine how many people be playing Dance Dance Revolution and how much maintenance that would require, if we're gonna do it, we have to do it well, and that's the concern. It's if we see a VR game and it's amazing, we'd probably pick it up.
Cool. There's more than likely, even doesn't matter what company, maybe except for Garage, I feel like there's some form of networking business potential between us, but that's for the when I hit turn the record button off situation. But yeah, I might legitimately be able to get that Metal Gear machine fixed.
Well, that'd be amazing. We've had a lot of people look at it. It's got a accelerometer chip that with most arcade games, the stuff that you can acquire, they don't want you to know where they're getting it from, so they scratch all the numbers off of it.
I
so
know.
There's
and
no
that's
no
actually how I
documentation on
know
this.
for a fact. I might be able to help because I was going to ask you that later because unfortunately, it's not common knowledge, but a lot of companies, or not even necessarily the companies, the manufacturers of a product for a company want to be, let's just call them what they are, dicks about things. So they want to get repeat business, even if the machine stops selling. They want to get repeat business by quote unquote being the only person who can fix it and give you an inflated price. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily illegal in almost any country, but it's a dick move, let's be honest. So I know specifically someone who does a lot of machine maintenance in Japan and also has connections over there. And plus I got a few bilingual people over in Japan. One dude's out there just for, the summer from Arizona. And the company that manufactured it, not Konami, but the company that made the machine for them, he might be able to get the phone number and the contact. And then I can even have him post-translate the emails for you and be able to get it fixed, or at least find out what the parts are.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later. All right,
Thank
so
you.
moving on. You've accomplished so much already on this earth, and I'm not even gonna say I'm jealous. It's more like envy, not because necessarily in another life, in another time, you're pretty much exactly where I want to be. It's more like I didn't know someone who had done the other half of my life goals that I haven't finished has already done them all or is doing them all simultaneously, barring few exceptions that I've already completed. So I'm curious, in your head, what is next for Doc? What thing haven't you conquered, or thing you want to accomplish is even left for someone like you?
It's right now we're kind of in a I'm in a point where I'm trying not to keep doing new things, because we have to make sure that we're doing the things that we're already doing,
Maintain quality
to the best of. We have to maintain that quality. We just recently opened up a company called Galloping Ghost Kaiju Kobo.
Yeah, what is that?
And so Kaiju Kobo is basically is Monster Shop, and we have a license to do Godzilla and Gamera models out in Japan. So I'm a huge Godzilla and Kaiju fan, and we have a sculptor that we work with in Thailand who models Godzillas makes 3D models, and then we 3D print them here and have molds made and reproduce them. And we're getting ready for a show in Japan right now, and it's it's been amazing. It's very time consuming, but one of the
Worth it.
amazing things. I'm lifelong Godzilla fan, so to get that license to be able to produce official Godzilla model kits is just been amazing. So, but following that, I say we're trying not to do other stuff, but we've got to still finish Dark Presence and Conquering Light, and then we've been talking about what we are doing next, and it'll probably have to do with something similar to the arcade and Galloping Ghost Pinball, but revolve more around PC gaming and console gaming.
No, I shouldn't say anything because my investors will kick my ass, but I'll wait till we're done recording for that one. But yeah, continue.
I'm not sure what else will be next. Like when we had our gym and martial arts school open up, that was from just a meeting we were doing a show with the Mortal Kombat actors, and we had been doing, we kind of helped get the Mortal Kombat actors back out in front of people, and we've done so many shows together. And
I have missed so much. Bro, this is news to me.
We ran Shang Tsung's Fight Night was our first big event, one of our first big events at the Galloping Ghost Arcade. This was either 2010, 2011, and we approached all the Mortal Kombat actors. Some of them I had known from before because we had actually approached them to be in our game, and they're all like, "Oh, Mortal Kombat, it was so long ago. Who's going to come see us?"
Everyone.
And well, that was the thing. At the time, it was a pretty small draw, and it took years of running it and promoting it and growing it to be like, no, yeah, everybody wants to see the Mortal Kombat actors. And we ran Shang Tsung's Fight Night went for, I think, 7 years, and it got so big that we went even bigger and ran 2 combat cons. And we had found all but 3 of the original actors, and we had John Tobias come out, and so many of the developers, Dan Forden and Tony Goski, and anybody that had worked on the game was out here. And we were running these huge Mortal Kombat events. And our last one, I think, was 2017. And by that point, a lot of the actors were doing shows all over the world. And Ed Boon came out for the last Shang Tsung's Fight Night that we've ran. So the actors, they're here often. Like a lot of the industry people are just
C2E2. I know that.
Yeah, they were at C2E2. We ran the first event with them at Wizard World. So like we've been doing this for a long time. We've been trying to get them out there and promote it along with so many of the other industry people, guys like Brian Colin and Jeff Lee, and because these are the people that they're the industry legends. They're celebrities to me and so many other people. These are the people that they're the directors and movie stars of our scene that have made all the stuff that we enjoy for forever. These games are timeless. So they've never really got the credit that they justly deserve. So to see their names out there now and to see so many of them writing books and memoirs and sharing their stories, it's just a tremendous thing. And we've been fortunate enough to be around so much of it. Great documentaries like Insert Coin and that really chronicled the history of Midway. So much of that has happened at the arcade, and it's just amazing to be a part of it. And we love just to see the people that made these games just get the acknowledgement that they're so justly deserve.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think there's anything left for you. Like, I hate to say it, but it's like I can't remember the name of the song, but there's this one song Eminem did about how he doesn't even know what's next for him, or when he feels or the world tells him he's hit his wall or his limit, he goes higher than he's ever fucking been. Actual quote. But It sounds arrogant, but when you look at his stat sheet, that's actually true. And I'll just keep thinking like, fuck, is there anything left for you? I'd rather be not sure about what's left for me than not having done anything. So
things just keep kind of coming along. And when we picked up the Galloping Ghost Garage, we didn't know how like that was going to intertwine into what we're doing, and everything really pushes itself along. Like we picked up Reproductions, and then which was our printing company, and now we use that to do marquees and side art and control panel art, posters, and
logos, graphic designs. I'm surprised I don't have an accessory line at this point, to be honest. That's the only thing left I can think of.
Well, we've been getting it. We've got so much out there, and just making it all tied together. Like the garage has become such an integral part of it, because we're welding joysticks down there and pinball parts and sandblasting old rusted joysticks and everything. And it's really become this integrated part where without it, we would have such a harder time making the arcade work and pinball work and productions. I'm surprised
y'all don't take contracts from all across the nation. Like, hey, send us your machine. We'll fix that shit.
If we had more time, I love fixing machines, but we've got 927 of them to fix down at the arcade and make sure those are running great.
A third party that specifically only works with outer GGA machines. So they would only be fixing machines that are not already on the show floor as a secondary entity. Technically, I don't know if you remember them, but I Play Games, if you remember that not I Play Games, I forgot what they're called, but there was this mom and pop game company that was doing ridiculous. They actually claim that they fix everything. They don't. They have a team of people who fix it, and they just go and ship everything off to a secure location in Illinois. Then they fix it, and then they bring it back to the place it goes to. And I talked to one of the merchandise owners, because they're a franchise. That game store owner got more money from repairs than he did from used game sales, which obviously is the bread and butter of any gaming retailer. He got more money from fixing people's shit than actually selling them a game. And I'm just like, man, you guys will make a fortune just off of the knowledge y'all have from maintaining those machines. But then at the same time, y'all would have to do like them, hire a third party and get you that extra scratch. Because there's one thing when you service Illinois, but imagine you being able to service nationwide as long as they can ship it to you. That would be ridiculous.
It's definitely we've even doing like house calls and stuff. It's such a specialized thing. It's definitely a dying art, being able to repair games and stuff.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they want it that way. And it's not even more like, oh, I read up on how little it is. Like, no, it's almost not the industry fault, because here's the thing. Most people who can do, and as you know, electronic or mechanical repairs, there is no limit for them. It's either they haven't invented a machine they can't fix yet, or they can go and work any place they want to. So if you get paid, we'll say $20 an hour to fix an arcade machine or maintaining arcade machines, but you can go for that same amount of money or less, work commission or an hourly rate $20 or $40 higher than that by being at one specific company. They're gonna do it. So it's not like the people don't exist. It's more like they don't want to specialize. And I can understand it, because they need to maintain a living. Who am I to tell the next guy, no, I want you to purposely make less money for the rest of your life or for the majority of your life because I want you to fix something that entertains me? I'm not selfish like that, so I understand it. It's a artificial shortage, but it's the nature of the beast.
Well, and the information, like our techs that we have, it's myself. We have one other master tech over at the arcade, Doug Fox, who does a tremendous job. He's been a tech for 40 years. At Pinball, we have master tech Ken Walker and Greg Gominas working down there. But our big thing is we love sharing the information. And I've seen techs that charge $120 an hour. And so much of this stuff, getting the information out there is so much more important because it is really a dying art.
Yeah.
And we've helped 40 arcades open since we've opened. We've shared the business model and talked to towns and helped them get laws changed about on the books that prohibit arcades from opening. And there's so many
What the fuck?
issues with opening an arcade. And the tech side is a huge part of it. We used to run classes, myself and Brandon Diaz used to run classes at the arcade to teach people how to just fix their own arcade machines. And it was totally free. It's just sharing the information. And we've got a ton of YouTube videos that we've put out there. We have people that ask, hey, do you know how to fix this? And we'll do custom videos and send them off to people. So it's a huge part of it, and getting that information out there and sharing that information, especially with the collection of games that we have. We've seen so much hardware that nobody else has ever laid hands on, and we have to know how to fix it. So having all that documented and out there and helping the preservation of it and helping others fix their arcade machines is an amazing thing. We love doing that, love hearing people getting their games running.
Man, if there ever was somebody who truly respects and loves the industry, let it not be said that man is not you.
I do love it, man. If it's video games, I love it.
All right. Well, I mean, as if you haven't already done it, but I guess more in a clear and concise manner. And, link dump me whenever you can find everything after this is over. Our last question isn't really a question. It's just essentially me always telling people, hey, listen, promote whatever you want or let me know what you want to promote, because I'll try to get links or footage that relates to it via B-roll. Obviously, this is going to be on podcast networks too. So for the people watching the video, first off, thank you. But for the people who are just listening to audio, I will try to have as many links in description from Mr. Mac himself. But yeah, go ahead and promote whatever you want to promote and tell people whatever you want to tell them.
And thank you for that. It's basically, check us out. Hope everybody makes it out to the arcade and Galpy Goes Pinball, and keep an eye out on social media for whatever we're doing next. And there's a company called You're the Phoenix that is doing a documentary on Dark Presence and why it's taken 28 years. And they have a Kickstarter wrapping up in the next few days. And these guys have done about 50 interviews. And we've done a lot of interviews and documentaries and stuff. And this one is been so thorough. He's been working on it for 2 years with him and his team. And if anybody can support the Kickstarter or keep an eye out for it when it comes out, it's called Ghost Lord and the Quest for Dark Presence. We'd greatly appreciate that. And again, we appreciate everybody that's come check us out at the Galpy Ghost.
Okay, the locations and address to various Galloping Ghost related businesses and the website will be in the description, or it'll be flashing across the screen right now. First and foremost, Doc, I want to thank you for coming through for our interview. And for anyone else out there listening and watching, I just want you to understand, this is only in Illinois. So if
also,
you're
thank you. I definitely appreciate you having us on.
Oh, yeah, I definitely, am grateful anytime people let me get to pick their brains, or I get to learn and understand what makes someone tick. I'm not trying to do an interview necessarily for clout or fame. I like doing them based on, is this an interesting person? Will they have interesting things to say? And let me just say, this has been possibly top 3 best interview I've ever had, and I've been doing this for quite some time. I just didn't always call them token cast interviews. This is possibly one of the best interviews I've done in at least 6 or 7 years, and that's not including if it relates to any future business potential. Just let me say that now. With that being said, this has been Token Podcast Interviews, and I will see you guys when I see you guys. Thanks for watching.